I'm sitting here with Pat from Black Keys. Hey, man.
How's it going?
It's going well. You guys are at we're here at Lollapalooza. You're the big headliner.
Well, I mean, Black Sabbath, maybe they're the big headliner.
Was that intentional?
I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. I mean, kind of takes the pressure off us. Yeah, you get like one of the greatest rock bands ever playing at the same time at the same festival. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd be surprised if anybody's in front of our stage, really.
Of course they're going to be. You guys are having this monumental last few years. I mean, it's been so great to watch from those very first albums. You know, you guys were doing something very specific, and it looks like you had kind of your sound already mapped out, and it's worked out. I mean, the audience found you. That never happens, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy what's happened. When I think back to the beginning, you know, and the whole last 10 years, it's kind of, none of it really makes sense, you know, why it worked. And I think if we could like tell people what we did, we'd probably become very wealthy, but we don't really know.
But do you think it has something to do with, like, you know, when I say people found you, certain sounds come around, and there is this thing, there's something about blues that I've been really interested in. Why, you know, blues or blues based or blues founded, you know, the foundation of blues has become a popular sound that people have accepted again. What is it about that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I just know that Dan and I grew up listening to that kind of music from our fathers, and, you know, getting played all kinds of classic rock, and, you know, it always felt like the most natural music for us to play was, you know, stuff that sounded like what we listened to growing up. But, you know, I mean, I think, you know, it depends a lot of, you know, there's always a trend, always trends going on, you know, like I think we're part of, like, maybe a trend in rock and roll, but if you look at the festival, there's definitely a different trend going on there. It's more electronic based and stuff like that. And I think, like, you know, talking about the audience finding us, I think the one thing that we did that a lot of bands that were kind of came up around the same time didn't do, we didn't shy away from putting our music in commercials and TV shows and movies, because we were never really considered cool back then. We weren't like the cool band from New York City, you know. We were like these goofballs from Akron. And I think, like, just putting our music in places where people are, you know, it's easier to find. I think that maybe that really helped us, you know.
There is something about your career, you know, where you spend the first few albums, you know, playing the clubs and going out, and I'm sure just hoping that people show up, you know, and there you are. When it turns the point that you're playing Madison Square Gardens and suddenly people are showing up, now you've got two different kinds of fans, and it kind of reminds me of, like, The Wall, you know, where he would talk about, because I'm guessing, you know, from where you're begging people, hoping, praying people will show up, and now you've probably got some crazies on board that you're going, man, why are you? That's scary.
Maybe a little bit. It's not so bad for us, I don't think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is weird though, because, like, yeah, it's always weird playing Chicago, because this is the city we've played the most, even more than our hometown, because it's always like the closest big city from Akron.
Right.
And before we even played, like, our own headlining club show, we came here and we probably did like 15, 20 shows, all within like a 7-month period, to no one. And then it kind of just started working. But it took us a long time. It took us like maybe 4 years before we could get like 500 people out to see us in Chicago.
And now it's no problem.
Yeah, now it's no problem. Yeah, we played the United Center here in March, which is, you know, I guess where the Bulls play.
Right.
Pretty crazy.
What about the kind of the rate you guys are doing this right now? Because you did have 2 albums in as many years, and I've heard that, you know, you're kind of already thinking about, or at least working on a new one. Does that give you an opportunity to change your music if you want to? I mean, like Little Black Submarines is a great case on this new record, because, you know, you've got these really amped up songs, and then there's this interesting centerpiece. I mean, at this kind of rapid fire, if you guys want to, do you have time to actually say, let's do a rock opera, or whatever, you know, it is that you want to do?
Well, I think if one of us threw that idea out, that would be a good opportunity for us to take a hiatus for a while.
So maybe not that specific.
Right.
Yeah, but.
I mean, there's rock and roll is pretty diverse. It's like when you're a fan, you can pick up on all the nuance in every genre. And Dan and I are fans of most aspects of all rock and roll, I guess. So usually what we do when we go into the studio is just kind of like figure out where we're at, like what's coming out naturally. Like with Brothers, it was usually kind of more mellow, heavier stuff, and then El Camino's a little bit faster and a little bit poppier. So I have no idea. I think we just have to kind of go and like figure it out, and that's what we've always done. I think every record really is just kind of a snapshot of like whatever point in time that it was made, like what we were kind of listening to and into.
It's a nice little yearbook almost.
Yeah, it's like when I don't often do this, but if I do go back and listen to a few songs on old records, I instantly remember like, oh yeah, like we were like eating at this restaurant all the time, and like we had these broken microphones, and this is what like Dan's favorite T-shirt was. You know what I mean?
Well, how about producing then? Because it's kind of a two-sided game for you now. It's not just the being the musician. You're getting into the producing game too.
Yeah, I mean, Dan and I've always been into recording. We recorded like our first like 5 albums in my basement, and Dan built a studio, and I didn't build a studio, but I still like working with bands.
Tennis.
I did Tennis, and I did a band called the Sheepdogs. And,
That's you. I didn't know you did that one.
Yeah, then the new one. It's not out yet, but then I did it comes out in September.
I've got a copy.
Okay. And I did a record for this band I'm friends with called Royal Bangs from Tennessee, from Knoxville, and I'm not sure that probably won't come out until January. But yeah, I mean, I love going to the studio, especially with friends and people who are on the same page. And it teaches you a lot about music, and it teaches you a lot about communication. Really, is what it all boils down to. And I think for most musicians, it's always a good thing to brush up your communication skills, because when you're in a band and you do like luck out and get popular, a lot of people just listen to everything that you say. It's good to be in a position where people are telling you like when you're wrong, and you're discussing things logically. And that's like usually the way to like kind of stay grounded.
Yeah. You and Dan, who's a better producer?
We're both do it completely differently.
Apples and oranges.
Yeah, apples and oranges.
I'm hoping to start the band fight. Like that's the question.
All right.
Not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen. I mean, I love everything Dan's worked on.
It seems to kind of put a sound. There's still a stamp on his where I find out like just comparing even Tennis and the Sheepdogs records, like it's very much, it's almost completely different. Like that's why I never would have heard you in the Sheepdogs, I guess.
I mean, I focus more on arranging and things like that. And when it comes to sound, like I mixed the Tennis album, but Chad Blake mixed the Sheepdogs record. So
with his binaural head.
What's his binaural head?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, he's my favorite mix engineer. Yeah. So, but Tennis didn't have the budget for him, so I had to do it.
All right, Pat from the Black Keys, thank you so much. Congrats on everything so far, and I'm sure be seeing you plenty.
Cool, man.
All right.
Thanks.